She is already begging before she reaches the counter. Not with words. Maria Hollis stopped using words 2 minutes ago when the woman behind the glass did not look up. She is begging with her body now, the way she leans slightly forward, the way her free hand presses flat against the counter like she is trying to steady a table that is tipping. The way she holds her son. Cairo is 6 years old and he is burning. His forehead presses against her collarbone and his small chest rises and falls with the particular effort of a child whose heart has been working twice as hard since before he could walk. She can feel it through her scrubs, that small urgent knocking, and every time it skips a half beat she holds her breath. The gate agent does not look up. Her name tag reads Taryn. She is in her mid-40s. Her hair is pinned in a dark, perfect bun, not a strand displaced, as if disorder around her has been made illegal by personal decree. Her red lipstick is applied with surgical precision. She types something. Looks at her screen. Types something else. The fluorescent lights of Terminal C catch the surface of her name tag and bounce a small bright star onto the counter between them. She has not acknowledged Maria for 47 seconds. Maria knows because she has been counting. Maria, hi, my son needs medical pre-boarding. We called ahead. He has a cardiac condition and his pre-boarding accommodation should be in the system. Confirmation number MR4A7-7-3-4ATL. Taryn's eyes move to the screen. Her fingers stop typing. 3 seconds. 5. Taryn, ma'am. If it's not showing in the system, I cannot work with it. Maria, it is in the system. I filed it last night at 10:45. I have the confirmation number right here on my phone, I can show you. Taryn, ma'am. I am looking at the system right now. The emphasis on right now means, and you are not what I see. The line behind Maria is 12 people deep. Someone exhales in the particular way that means hurry up. Someone else shifts their carry-on from one shoulder to the other. A child 2 rows back asks her father if they are going to miss the plane. Cairo coughs. It is a dry, hollow sound that belongs to a body working too hard for too little return. Maria's arms pull tighter. She can feel him trying not to cough again, the held breath, the small swallow. Stopwatch surgical window, closes 11 p.m. tonight. Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota. 9 hours, 1 minute remaining. Maria, please. He cannot stand for long. His cardiologist called last night. There is a surgical window that closes tonight. This flight is the only way we reach it in time. Taryn looks up. It is a full look, the first one. Her eyes move across Maria with the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to rapid categorization, the wrinkled navy scrubs under the gray thrift store coat, the hospital band holding back her hair, the sneakers still damp from the parking lot rain, the 6-year-old boy in a dinosaur fleece jacket breathing against her chest. The look takes 2 seconds. It concludes something. Taryn, ma'am. You'll need to step aside. You're holding up the line. Maria doesn't move. Her jaw tightens. Her hand presses harder against the counter. She is 32 hours without sleep, and she is a cardiac nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital who has held the hands of dying people without flinching, and right now she is fighting, with everything she has left, the precise kind of fear that has no clinical name. The fear of a mother watching a clock. Maria, please. His name is Cairo. He is 6 years old. Please look at him and tell me you cannot help us. Taryn's jaw does not move. Taryn, next passenger, please. Nobody in the line moves forward. Something in the way the words landed has made even the people who were impatient go very still. And then, from 3 rows back in the gate seating area, 3 boys stand up. In unison. Without speaking. 3 identical faces. 8 years old. Tailored charcoal suits without a single wrinkle. White sneakers that have somehow remained spotless in a rain-wet airport. Matching dimples pressed into expressions of absolute, unsettling calm. Most of the gate area has not noticed them yet. They have been sitting quietly for 19 minutes, 2 of them reading, 1 of them watching, specifically watching Taryn, in the way a person watches something they have already fully understood and are simply waiting to address. The tallest one steps forward first. He places one hand inside his jacket. Removes a matte black phone. Does not unlock it yet. Does not look at Taryn. Looks at Maria. Callum, ma'am. Don't step aside. Stop for a moment. Before the boys make their move. Before the screens come back online. Before the 2 men in navy coats appear at the end of the concourse. You need to understand who Maria Hollis is. Because Taryn Vale looked at her for 2 seconds and decided. And that decision is about to become the most expensive mistake of anyone's career in the history of this terminal. Maria grew up 4 miles from this airport. She could hear the planes from her bedroom window every night of her childhood, a sound she found comforting, all those people going somewhere, all that motion, all that urgency with a destination attached. Her mother worked double shifts at a laundry facility near the airport access road. Her father was gone by the time Maria was 8. She raised her 2 younger brothers in the hours her mother was absent, learning to cook from whatever was in the pantry, learning to sign school permission slips with a borrowed pen, learning that the world did not hand you what you needed and that asking twice was not weakness but survival. She became a nurse because she wanted to be the person who stayed. Not the physician who sweeps in, makes the call, and moves to the next room. The person who pulls the chair close. Who says your name before touching you? Who understands that medicine without humanity is just biology performed on a stranger? She has been on the cardiac floor at Grady Memorial for 7 years. She has learned to read a heart monitor the way other people read faces. She knows the sounds. She knows the sound Cairo's breathing makes when it is wrong. She has known it since the morning she called the pediatrician at 4 a.m. when he was 11 months old and would not stop crying, and she pressed her ear to his chest and heard something that should not have been there. Hypoplastic left heart syndrome. The left side of the heart is underdeveloped. The blood cannot move the way it should. Every breath is a negotiation. First surgery, 13 months old. Second surgery, 3 years, 4 months. Third surgery, tonight. If they make this flight. Secret 1, Maria filed medical pre-boarding request MR4A7734ATL at 10:45 p.m. the previous night. The system received and confirmed it. Between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., the request was removed from the active accommodation queue. Not by Maria. Not by Taryn. Someone with supervisor-level access deleted it before the morning shift began. Dr. Suresh Anand, Cairo's cardiologist at Mayo Clinic, had called at 8:57 p.m. the night before. Maria had been checking a post-operative patient's drainage output when her phone lit up. She had stepped into the hallway. She had read his message 3 times to make sure she understood. Dr. Anand, we've had a cancellation. The full surgical team is available. If you can get him here by this evening, we can proceed. This window may not reopen for 6 to 8 months, Maria. You need to come tonight. She had been packed in 11 minutes. She had driven to the airport in rain that turned the expressway into a river. She had sat in the pre-boarding check-in line for 22 minutes with Cairo asleep against her shoulder. She had filed every form. Carried every document. Prepared for every possible objection. She had not prepared for being invisible. That is the particular cruelty of what Taryn did. Not the rule quoting. Not the legal wrong of deleting a medical accommodation, though that is coming, that reckoning is already in motion. The cruelty is the look. That 2-second calculation. The way Taryn's eyes moved across Maria and her son and found them insufficient. Maria has been found insufficient before. By insurance companies. By referral processes. By the system that has been making her fight for Cairo's survival since before he could say her name. She is tired in a way that goes deeper than 31 hours without sleep. She is tired the way you are tired when the world keeps asking you to prove you deserve to be in it. If you have ever felt that tired, share this story. Because someone, right now, is standing at a counter just like this one. And they need to know someone is watching. Back at gate C19, the three boys in charcoal suits are moving. Behind Maria, behind the frozen screen, behind Taryn's perfect composure that is just beginning to crack at the edges, something is being set into motion that will not stop until it has changed everything. The middle boy, Cashin, has opened a silver tablet. His eyes move across the screen with the focused precision of a surgeon reviewing imaging. He finds what he is looking for in 40 seconds. He turns the screen so his brothers can see it. Callum nods once. Callum, confirmed. Taryn Vale picks up her radio. Her hands are steady. That is the thing about Taryn, her hands are always steady. 7 years behind this counter have produced in her a kind of professional armor that she wears so tightly it has become her skeleton. She has been written up twice this month. She knows it. She also knows that her supervisor, Brent Halvorsen, has covered for her both times, and the 2 times before that, and the 6 times before that. She is not worried about this mother in the scrubs. She is not worried about the frozen screen, which she is certain is a system glitch. She is absolutely not worried about 3 small children in expensive suits. She keys the radio. Taryn, Brent. C19. Bring a reset code for Terminal 2. Possible system freeze. Static. Then. Brent, on my way. She sets the radio down. Looks at Maria. Looks at the line. Looks at the 3 boys, who have now stepped past the second row of seats and are standing at the edge of the boarding lane. She decides they are not her problem. Taryn, ma'am, as I explained, without documentation in the active system I have no basis to provide medical priority boarding. Company Policy Section 12.4 is explicit. I would be in violation of boarding procedure if I deviated without supervisor authorization. You are welcome to speak with the accessibility line when they open at 8 a.m. The line behind Maria begins to shuffle. Someone mutters something. The businessman in the gray coat who has been scrolling his phone since before Maria reached the counter finally sets it down. He looks at Taryn the way people look at something unpleasant that they cannot quite bring themselves to address. Then the tallest boy steps to the counter. He is 4 feet 2 inches tall. The top of his head clears the counter surface by 6 inches. He places both hands flat on the laminate, a gesture so deliberate it silences the shuffling in the line. His face is calm in the way that faces are calm when the person behind them has never needed to perform calm because calm is simply what they are. Callum, the passenger filed medical accommodation request MR4A7734ATL at 22:45 last night. Your company's own system issued a confirmation. Under 14 CFR Part 382.31 of the Federal Air Carrier Access Act, you are required to accommodate a passenger with a documented disability absent a direct safety threat. There is no safety threat here. There is a child with a cardiac condition who holds a current medical clearance to fly. Taryn stares at him. The gate area has gone completely quiet. Not the distracted semi-quiet of people pretending not to listen. The real quiet. The kind where even the rolling bags stop. Taryn, sweetheart. I don't know where you heard that, but this is an adult matter and I need you to go back to your seat. Callum, my name is Callum Quaid. I am not your sweetheart. And I did not ask for your opinion of my age. I stated federal law. Do you need me to state it again? Secret 2, Taryn Vale has accumulated 9 formal passenger complaints in 7 years at this airline. 7 from black passengers. 1 from a Latino family. 1 from an elderly passenger using a mobility device. Not 1 resulted in dismissal. Her supervisor, Brent Halvorsen, is her former brother-in-law. Every complaint was resolved internally. Every settlement was sealed. The middle boy, Cashin, has not moved. He stands 1 step behind Callum, tablet in hand, face expressionless. He is watching Taryn the way a person watches a chessboard when they already see the inevitable checkmate but are waiting for their opponent to play out the moves. Calder, the youngest by 4 minutes, has said nothing. He is recording everything. Not discreetly. Openly. His angle takes in Taryn, the counter, the frozen screen behind her, and the growing cluster of passengers who have abandoned all pretense of minding their own business. The witnesses are already in position. Marcus Webb, aviation civil rights attorney, 42 years old, briefcase open, has set his legal pad on his knee. Dana Osei, travel ICU nurse, is crouched in front of Cairo checking the color of his lips. Colonel James Adeyemi, retired, 2 combat tours, full dress uniform for his grandson's commissioning, has stood up from seat 1A. He does not speak yet. He simply stands. His presence is its own statement. In the back corner, a 17-year-old named Jalen points his phone at the counter. The live stream title he types in 30 seconds of instinct reads, "Kid in a suit is shutting down an airline agent for a sick boy." He has 60 followers. In the next 14 minutes he will have 19,000. Stopwatch 8 hours, 22 minutes to surgical window close. Taryn reaches for her radio again. It starts with the screens. Every departure board in Terminal C flickers once, the kind of flicker that makes you think you imagined it, and then resolves into white. Not glitching white, not error code white. Clean, deliberate white, as if someone has pressed pause on the entire operational layer of the building. Terminal B follows 11 seconds later. Then the self-service kiosks near security lock onto their boot screens. Then, across 3 separate ticketing counters, the printers stop in the middle of printing. The ambient sound of the airport does not stop. Coffee machines still hiss. Overhead announcements still play for other terminals. But Gate C19 and the 22 gates around it have gone operationally silent. Passengers look up. Every person who was scrolling a phone has stopped scrolling. Every person who was reading a book has let it drop to their lap. The businessman in the gray coat stands. The mother with the toddler near Gate C14 picks up her child instinctively. Nobody knows what is happening. Except 3 boys in charcoal suits. Callum's phone is back in his inside jacket pocket. His hands are at his sides. He looks at Taryn the way a surgeon looks at a complication they anticipated, not surprised, not alarmed, entirely prepared. "Taryn, how did you?" She does not finish the question. She is staring at the text on her screen. Aurelian Executive Compliance Protocol, Delta 7, active. She has worked for this airline for 7 years. She has never seen the word Aurelian on an internal terminal. She does not know what it means. She is about to find out. Her supervisor's radio crackles. "Brent, Taryn. What is happening at your gate? I have 3 system alerts and a call from." "Taryn, I don't know. The screen I didn't do anything. I was following procedure." "Brent, do not touch anything. I'm coming." At the back of the gate area, Jalen's viewer count reads 22,000. The clip of the 3 suited boys standing at the counter has been screen recorded by 14 separate viewers and is already moving across 3 platforms. Someone in the comments has typed, "Wait, are those kids famous?" And someone else has replied, "I don't think famous is the right word." Secret 3. Contingency Delta 7 is a board-level emergency override protocol embedded in the operating agreements between Aurelian Global Holdings and every airline under its portfolio. It was designed by the Triplets' late father, Alaric Quaid, as an absolute last resort, the kind that freezes operations until the board reviews a compliance breach in real time. It requires majority shareholder authorization to activate. It has never been activated. Until 6:19 a.m. on a Monday morning at Gate C19 in Atlanta. Mireya has sat down. Dana Osei is beside her, 2 fingers against Cairo's wrist, watching the small rise and fall of his chest. Dana, pulse is elevated. He needs to be horizontal. He needs water. He should not be in a gate chair. Maria, I know. I know. We just need to get on the plane. Dana, I'm a travel ICU nurse. I have a pediatric pulse oximeter in my bag. Can I check his oxygen saturation? Maria, yes. Please. Yes. Marcus Webb, the attorney, has his phone to his ear. His legal pad is open. He is speaking quietly and with the specific calm of someone who has been in deposition rooms for 20 years and knows the difference between theater and evidence. Colonel Adeyemi stands near the counter, hands clasped behind his back. He has said nothing. He does not need to. A 71-year-old black man in full dress uniform standing in silence at gate C-19 while a young black mother in scrubs is being denied medical assistance for her sick child is, by itself, a complete statement. Brent Halvorson arrives at a half-jog, slightly breathless, his supervisor vest not fully zipped. He looks at the screens. He looks at the agents standing motionless at their frozen terminals. He looks at the three boys. His expression moves through several stages quickly. Then two men appear from the main concourse. They walk with the unhurried precision of people who have a destination and a purpose and no anxiety about either. Navy coats, no visible insignia. Small earpieces. The shorter one carries a slim black briefcase. They do not look at Taryn. They do not look at the departure screens. They look, directly and only, at the three boys. The shorter man reaches Callum. He lowers himself, not a bow, not a kowtow, but the specific physical adjustment of someone accustomed to speaking with children who hold authority, so that his eyes are level with Callum's. Agent, Mr. Quaid. Delta 7 is active. The board has been notified. Legal is on standby. Mr. Hadley from operations will be here in 4 minutes. How would you like to proceed? The gate area goes silent. Not the shuffling, distracted semi-silence from before. The full silence. The silence of 47 people understanding simultaneously that what they are witnessing is not a customer service dispute. Callum, first. Mrs. Hollis and her son board immediately. First class. A medical attendant is assigned for the duration. Second. I want the full system access log for the past 18 hours pulled and preserved. Third. No one leaves this gate until we understand how a filed medical accommodation request disappeared from the active queue. He does not raise his voice. He does not gesture. He delivers 3 precise instructions in the tone of a person who has given instructions in rooms considerably more consequential than this one. Brent Halvorson looks at the agent. The agent nods slightly. Brent looks at Taryn. Taryn is looking at the screen. The screen still reads Delta 7, active. Behind the text, in smaller type, there is a scrolling list of authorizations and override codes, and at the top of the list, in bold, Aurelian Global Holdings, majority shareholder authorization, Callum A. Quaid. Stopwatch 8 hours, 4 minutes remaining. Let me tell you about Alaric Quaid. He was 30 years old when he filed his first patent. It was a data compression algorithm, the kind of thing that sounds obscure until you understand that every major financial exchange on Earth runs on a version of it. He was not a showman. He did not do TED Talks. He did not appear on magazine covers. He appeared in regulatory filings and board minutes and the kind of quiet rooms where the decisions that shape infrastructure get made without anyone outside those rooms knowing it happened. He sold the patent at 33. He launched Aurelian Global Holdings at 35. Not a tech company. Not a consumer brand. A holdings company, the kind that acquires distressed assets in sectors that seem unglamorous until you look at what those sectors control. Transportation networks. Utility infrastructure. Regional airlines bleeding cash after 2 consecutive years of overexpansion. He bought them quietly. Restructured them invisibly. Let them keep their names, their branding, their gate agents with their name tags and their company policies. He just owned the whole thing underneath. The airline operating Flight 2241 from Atlanta to Rochester, the flight Maria Hollis needs to be on in the next 60 minutes, was acquired by Aurelian 29 months ago. The deal was filed in a public regulatory disclosure that received precisely zero press coverage because no one was looking for it. Alaric Quaid died 14 months ago. He was coming back from a water infrastructure summit in Zurich. The road was wet. The accident was immediate. His wife, Sienna, had died 9 years before that, an aneurysm, in an airport, in a security line, where a medical accommodation request had been processed as a queue management note and nobody had understood what was happening until it was over. He left everything to his sons. 3 sons who are standing at gate C19 right now. Secret 4, the Quaid triplets are the legal majority shareholders of Aurelian Global Holdings, held in an irrevocable trust established by their late father. Under the trust terms, they have full operational authority upon activation of any board-level compliance protocol. They have never used that authority. This is the first time. And they chose to use it for a woman in scrubs holding a 6-year-old boy. Callum is the architect. He reads systems, legal, financial, operational, the way other children read stories. He had understood the structure of Aurelian's airline holdings by the time he was 6 years old, not as an inheritance but as a responsibility. Cashin is the analyst. He reads people. He had read Taryn in the first 4 minutes after Maria reached the counter, the tightness around the eyes that signals not rule following but power assertion, the micro-expressions of contempt disguised as procedure. Calder is the archivist. He remembers everything. Every regulation he has ever read is still perfectly preserved, date and provision number intact. Together, they had watched Maria for 11 minutes before acting. They had confirmed the filed accommodation in the system. They had found the deletion. They had identified who held the access credentials that permitted a deletion at 2:17 a.m. They had made a decision. Brent Halvorsen is looking at a document that one of the agents in Navy coats has placed on the counter in front of him. It is a shareholder's certificate. It has a notarial seal. It has Callum's name on it. The date of authority is 4 months after Alaric Quaid's death. Brent looks at the document. He looks at Callum. He looks at the document again. His face does the thing that faces do when a person is trying to locate the correct response to something that has no precedent in their experience. He has been in airline operations for 19 years. He has handled delayed flights and angry passengers and union grievances and a runway incursion that made the evening news. He has never handled this. Behind him, Taryn has not moved. The arrogance that she wears like a second skin is doing something it has never done in a public space. It is losing cohesion. Not dramatically, Taryn Vale does not do dramatic. But at the edges, in the slight forward lean of her shoulders, in the way her fingers have stopped moving over the keyboard entirely, in the way her eyes keep going back to the name on the shareholder certificate. Callum Quaid. Majority shareholder. The airline she has worked for. The boarding counter she has stood behind for 7 years. The company she was following policy for when she turned away a mother and her dying son. Taryn, I was following procedure. The accommodation wasn't in the active queue. I had no way to know. Calder, the accommodation was in the active queue at 22:45 last night. It was removed at 2:17 this morning from a supervisor-level login. That login belongs to Brent Halvorsen. The deletion was not an error. It was a decision. The silence that follows is complete. Marcus Webb stops writing. Colonel Adeyemi unclasped his hands from behind his back. Dana Osei looks up from Cairo's wrist. Even Jalen, whose viewer count now reads 41,000, holds his phone completely still. Brent Halvorsen's face goes gray. Not the gray of guilt, though that is in there. The gray of a man who has just understood, in a single sentence from an 8-year-old boy, the full shape and consequence of what he has spent 7 years quietly permitting. Callum, Mrs. Hollis boards now. Her son boards now. And then we have a different conversation, about the 14 other passengers whose accommodation requests were denied at this gate in the past 22 months. About the pattern in those denials. About who knew and who covered for it and for how long. He says it the way you say a fact. No heat. No performance. Just the precise delivery of a reality that is now irrevocable. Mireya stands. Cairo stirs against her shoulder. Cairo, mommy. Are we going now? Mireya, yes, baby. We're going now. Brent turns to the boarding agent beside him. His voice is barely audible. Brent, process her boarding pass. First class. Medical assistance. Now. Outside the rain-streaked terminal windows, through the glass that has been blurring the runway lights into copper ribbons since before dawn, a black SUV caravan sits on the tarmac. Not standard ground crew vehicles. Executive transport. Beside them, angled toward the private terminal exit, a Gulfstream jet idles with the quiet, patient readiness of something that has been waiting and is not in any hurry because it knows where it is going. You have watched 47 people stand at that gate and do nothing for 11 minutes while a mother and her dying son were turned away. 47 people. Be honest with yourself, which one were you? If this story made you feel something, don't let that feeling stop here. Share it. Because right now, somewhere in an airport exactly like this one, someone is standing at a counter exactly like this one. And they don't have 3 boys in charcoal suits behind them. They just have you. Most people would take the win and walk. Mireya is boarding. Cairo is going to make the surgical window. The 3 boys have established, beyond any possible dispute, who holds authority in this building. Taryn is standing behind the counter with her composure in pieces and her supervisor going pale beside her. From the outside, justice is complete. Callum Quaid does not move. He stands at gate C-19 with his hands at his sides and his face carrying the expression of someone who knows that what just happened is not the story. What just happened is the evidence that the story is larger than one morning, one gate, one mother, one child. Calder steps forward. He sets his tablet flat on the counter. The document on the screen is 6 pages. Clean formatting. A table at the top. Dates in the left column. Passenger names, redacted with a gray bar except for demographic codes, in the second. The word denied, in small red type, running down the third column like a wound. Calder, this is the accommodation denial log for gate C-19 over the past 22 months. 14 incidents. 11 passengers coded black. 2 coded Hispanic. 1 coded elderly, non-English speaking. All 14 were marked internally as policy compliant. None triggered a supervisory review. None were escalated to the accessibility team. Brent Halvorsen is looking at the tablet. His face is doing the arithmetic. 14 cases. 7 years covering for Taryn. 6 sealed settlements on her employment record. He knows about those. He was in the room for most of them. The number of times he was handed a complaint and found a reason to file it instead of act on it. It is adding up to something that does not have a comfortable sum. Marcus Webb, the aviation attorney, approaches the counter. He sets his legal pad beside the tablet. He has been building his record for 47 minutes. Marcus, for the record, what we have here is a documented pattern of medical accommodation denial with a consistent demographic correlation, a deleted federal accommodation request tied to a supervisor-level login, and a compliance failure that proceeded this morning by at least 22 months. This is no longer an internal HR matter. This is a federal civil rights complaint under the Air Carrier Access Act and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. I will be filing by end of business today. Taryn's red lipstick is the only part of her that has not moved. Everything else, the set of her shoulders, the angle of her chin, the controlled stillness she wears like armor, has shifted by degrees, the way a wall shifts before it falls, invisibly, and then all at once. Taryn, I was following the cue. If it wasn't in the active system I had no way to. Callum, stop. He says it the way you stop a clock. Not loud. Absolute. Callum, the question I want answered is not who deleted the request. We already know that. The question I want answered is this: did you know that accommodation requests had been disappearing from the active queue before passengers reached your counter? Not this morning. Over the past 22 months. Did you know? Silence. Not the defensive silence of someone buying time. The deeper silence of someone confronting a question they have been arranging their life around not being asked. Taryn knew. She did not know the mechanism. She did not know that Brent was the one pruning the queue. But she knew that the mornings where difficult accommodation requests had been filed overnight were also, reliably, the mornings where those requests did not appear on her screen. And she had let herself not investigate why. That is the architecture of complicity. Not malice with a plan. Convenience with a willingness to not look down. Colonel Adeyemi speaks for the first time. He does not come to the counter. He speaks from his seat, in the measured cadence of a man who spent 40 years giving orders in situations where the consequence of imprecision was measured in lives. Colonel Adeyemi, in my experience, when a system produces the same result 14 times in a row, it is not producing an error. It is producing an outcome. The question is whether that outcome was designed, or simply permitted. Both answers carry consequences. Dana Osei, who has returned from the jetway after ensuring Maria and Cairo were safely boarded and attended, stands near the back of the gate area. She looks at Taryn. Then at Brent. Then at the three boys. She speaks quietly. To no one specific. Dana, I have worked in travel medicine for 20 years. I have watched patients deteriorate in airports because accommodation systems failed them. Every single time, someone at a counter followed policy. And every single time, policy turned out to be a word that meant, this person's emergency is less important than this institution's convenience. Stopwatch 7 hours, 41 minutes to surgical window close. Cairo is in the air. Callum turns to face Brent Halvorsen directly. Callum, our legal team will want your full employment records, your access logs for the past 24 months, and your written correspondence regarding accommodation complaints at this gate. You will provide all of it before you leave this building today. If you refuse, we move forward with the federal complaint and a civil action simultaneously. Brent nods. The motion is barely perceptible. A man who has spent 19 years building leverage in the small politics of airline operations, discovering that small politics are irrelevant when the person across the counter owns the airline. Before Callum answers Taryn's question, Cashin speaks. In all the time since the three boys stood up from their gate seats, Cashin has spoken exactly twice. He is not the quiet one, that is Calder, who speaks only in facts. Cashin is the one who watches. Who builds the complete picture before he says anything, because he understands that the right words at the right moment can accomplish what 1,000 wrong words cannot. He has been waiting for this moment since they arrived at gate C19. He steps forward until he is standing beside Callum. He does not look at Taryn's face. He looks at a point somewhere between them, the space where the question still hangs. Cashin, her name was Sienna Quaid. She was 33 years old. She was our mother, though we never met her, because she died before we were born. She collapsed in an airport security line in Seattle. She had been experiencing severe headaches for 6 weeks that her physician attributed to stress. She had an undiagnosed intracranial aneurysm. The gate area, which had begun to settle into a kind of procedural attention, goes still again. A different kind of still this time. Not the stillness of shock. The stillness of recognition. The beginning of understanding why 3 8-year-old boys in charcoal suits are standing at gate C19 at 6 in the morning and refuse to leave. Cashin, she asked for medical assistance at the security checkpoint. The TSA officer logged the request as a queue delay note, not a medical emergency call. By the time anyone understood what was happening, she had lost consciousness. The EMTs arrived 11 minutes later. She died before the ambulance reached the hospital. The aneurysm had been building for 6 weeks. If someone had called for emergency medical response when she first asked for help, the doctors said she had a 70% survival probability. Nobody speaks. Outside the rain-streaked windows, the tarmac reflects the runway lights and long amber lines across the wet concrete. Somewhere out there, a Gulf Stream is climbing through the low clouds with Maria Hollis and her son. The boy with the bad heart who is still breathing because 3 children refuse to be told to sit down. Alaric Quaid spent 9 years building 2 things. A company that owned infrastructure. And 3 sons who understood, bone deep, what it costs when someone in a position of power looks at a person in distress and chooses procedure over presence. He told them about their mother the way other parents tell stories, slowly, in pieces, with the intention that the pieces would eventually form something whole. He told them about the security line. About the log entry. About the settlement that sealed the record and changed 2 internal forms and considered the matter resolved. He told them that money is a tool and tools are only as good as the hands holding them and the purpose those hands serve. He told them, never let someone invisible die alone in a line while someone with a clipboard decides their emergency is inconvenient. Then he died on a wet road outside Zurich. And left them everything. And trusted them to know what everything was for. Revelation: this is not the first time the Quaid triplets have been in an airport watching a person be denied help. It is the first time they have been old enough, legally, emotionally, structurally, to do something about it. They have been waiting for this gate for 9 years. In the gate area, something is happening that no procedural document or compliance protocol caused and no amount of money can manufacture. People are crying. Not loudly. Not dramatically. The businessman in the gray coat has pressed his thumb and forefinger to the bridge of his nose. Dana Osei is looking at the ceiling with the careful stillness of someone who needs not to fall apart right now. Jalen, the 17-year-old with 89,000 viewers, has lowered his phone. He doesn't think this moment should be streamed. Some things are not content. They are just true. Colonel Adeyemi crosses the gate area and stands in front of the 3 boys. He looks at them for a long moment. Then he does something that no one present will ever fully describe to anyone who was not there. He straightens. He squares his shoulders. He brings his right hand, slowly, to the brim of his garrison cap. A salute. From a colonel. To 3 8-year-old boys. Callum nods. The way you nod when someone has seen you. Fully, without qualification. When someone has looked at you and understood everything and said, I know. I know what this cost. I know why you came. Power without mercy is just domination wearing a different coat. Alaric Quaid wrote that in a journal entry dated 3 months before he died. Callum had read it in the weeks after the funeral, in the quiet of the penthouse with the East River outside and his brothers reading beside him and the weight of everything their father left them sitting across their shoulders like something too large and too important to put down. He had underlined it. Twice. He thinks about it now, standing at gate C-19, with Taryn Vale in front of him and the full machinery of Aurelian's legal and compliance apparatus available to him at a single word. He could end her career in 12 minutes. He could recommend federal charges. He could ensure that Taryn Vale's name appears in every civil aviation discrimination database in North America. He has the documentation. He has the witnesses. He has 47 people who watched what happened in a live stream that is, at this moment, trending in 7 states. He chooses differently. Callum, here's what we are offering you. Not because what you did was acceptable, it was not. Not because there are no consequences, there are. But because our Father believed that the purpose of power is not to destroy the people who misuse authority. It is to dismantle the conditions that allow authority to be misused and create something better in their place. He pulls a document from his inside jacket pocket. A single folded page. He sets it on the counter. Callum, this is an enrollment form for the Sienna Quaid Foundation's Compassionate Authority Program. 12 weeks. Every week you sit across from a passenger who was denied help in an airport. Not to be accused. Not to be punished. To listen. To understand, in the first-person voice of the person affected, what it costs when someone behind a counter decides that procedure matters more than presence. At the end of 12 weeks, you are reevaluated. If you complete it, your employment status is reviewed with the benefit of demonstrated remediation. If you refuse, the federal complaint proceeds without prejudice. Taryn looks at the document. She does not touch it yet. She is 44 years old. She has been at this counter for 7 years. She has been in survival mode for longer than that: the divorce, the financial collapse, the years of moving through the world in defensive formation because the world had punished her badly enough, early enough, that she stopped waiting for it to be kind and started working to be the one who was not vulnerable. That is the architecture of her cruelty. Not sadism. Armor. She understands, in this moment, that the armor has cost other people things she can never give back. Before Taryn answers, ask yourself this. Have you ever looked the other way? Ever let a cue move rather than ask if someone needed help? Ever assumed someone else would handle it? This story is not just about a gate agent. It is about every single one of us who has ever decided that someone else's emergency was not our business. Share this story. Because the next Maria is in a line somewhere right now. And the next person who could help her is you. Marcus Webb speaks. His voice is precisely measured. Marcus, for the record, I want to note that this offer of remediation does not preclude the federal civil rights complaint, which I am filing regardless. But it is consistent with the kind of institutional accountability that courts have historically viewed as evidence of good faith reform rather than damage control. I would recommend, Taryn, that you take it seriously. Taryn's hand moves to the document. She doesn't pick it up. Just touches the edge of it, a brief contact, like a person touching the door of a room they are not sure they are allowed to enter. Taryn, the passengers. The ones in the log. Would any of them, would they be part of the program? Callum, some of them have agreed to participate. Yes. Taryn, would they know it was me? Callum, yes. The word lands. Taryn closes her eyes for 2 seconds. When she opens them, something in her face has settled, not collapsed, not broken, but settled. The way a tide settles after a storm. Not calm yet. But no longer fighting itself. Taryn, all right. I'll do it. She picks up the document. It is not redemption. Not yet. Redemption is not a signature on a form, it is 1,000 decisions made differently in the years that follow. But it is the first step toward a version of Taryn Vale that this morning made seem impossible. The Gulf Stream clears Atlanta airspace at 8:14 a.m. Maria is sitting in a wide leather seat with Cairo stretched across her lap, his dinosaur fleece jacket still zipped to his chin, his small pulse oximeter clipped to his left index finger. The medical attendant, a woman named Patricia who has flown 21 years of pediatric transport, has checked his oxygen saturation 3 times since takeoff. Each time the number comes back the same. 96. Stable. Acceptable. Maria watches the number like it is the only number in the world. Outside the oval window, the cloud cover breaks for 30 seconds at 22,000 feet and Atlanta appears below them, a gray-green grid of freeways and neighborhoods and a long silver ribbon that is the Chattahoochee, and then the clouds close again and it is gone. Cairo, Mommy. Where are the boys? Maria, they're still at the airport, baby. Cairo, are they coming? Maria, no. They did what they came to do. He considers this with the specific gravity of a 6-year-old processing something too large for 6 years. Cairo, I want to write them a letter. Maria, we will. I promise. She holds him the way she has held him since the first night in the NICU when he was 4 days old and the monitor alarmed at 3 a.m. and the only thing she could do was be there. Sometimes being there is the whole thing. The surgery begins at 7:38 p.m. Dr. Anand will describe it in his post-operative notes as technically unremarkable, which, in surgical language, is the highest possible praise. 4 hours, 6 minutes. The team is precise. The correction is complete. The left side of Cairo's heart, which has been working twice as hard since before he could walk, receives the structural repair it has needed since before he was born. At 11:44 p.m., 16 minutes before the window closes, Cairo Hollis is wheeled into recovery. His heart is whole. 3 days later, from a hospital room in Minnesota where Cairo is watching cartoons and eating orange jello and asking when he can play football, Maria sits at a small desk beside his bed and opens her phone. She types a message to a number the agent in the navy coat gave her before she left the gate. Maria, he made it. Surgery successful. He is asking for orange jello and wants to write you all a letter. Thank you. I don't have better words than that. Thank you. In a penthouse on the Upper East Side, Calder reads the message aloud to his brothers. None of them speak. They don't need to. Stopwatch surgical window, closed. Patient outcome, successful. One family, one flight, one morning, and everything that follows from it. It is late on a Thursday night. The penthouse is quiet in the way that large spaces are quiet when the people in them are thinking rather than talking. Cashin stands in front of a wall-mounted display, his arms crossed, his eyes moving across a heat map of the United States that is covered in small red markers, each one a filed accommodation complaint, each one an incident documented in the Sienna Quaid Foundation's growing database, each one a gate, a counter, a morning, a family. 247. In 3 months of active investigation. Final revelation, 2 weeks after Gate C-19, the United States Department of Transportation opens a public comment period on extending mandatory medical accommodation standards to all commercial carriers. The proposal cites Gate C-19 by name. It cites the Hollis Initiative, the federal monitoring program the Quaid triplets have announced, named after Cairo, covering every airline under Aurelian control. Dallas, Chicago, Phoenix, Newark, Charlotte. Within 6 weeks, voluntary adoptions begin. The dominoes are moving. Cashin, it's not isolated. Callum is at the window, watching a plane cross the dark sky, red and white lights moving in a long arc toward JFK, carrying someone somewhere that matters. Callum, it was never isolated. Calder closes his book. He looks at the map. He looks at the number. Calder, what do we do with 247? Callum turns from the window. He looks at the map. He looks at his brothers. He looks at the single new red marker that appeared while they were speaking, a small pulse of crimson in the lower left quadrant of the display. Los Angeles. LAX. Terminal 4. Filed 2 minutes ago. Medical accommodation denied. Passenger, black woman, 58 years old. Traveling alone. Callum, next time, we don't freeze one airport. He picks up his phone. Callum, we fixed the system.